So when Zen Master Su Bong came to Cambridge, was he already a monk, or at what point did Zen Master Su Bong become a monk?
I believe he came there once or twice. I think he was involved in New York when I went down there, and we helped them renovate a building down there. And then maybe a year or two after I met him, he became Mudung Sinim. That was his monastic name. And he became a monk formally with Zen Master Sung San.
So you met him before he became a monk as a layman, and then you also witnessed him as a monk. So could you share, with everybody a little bit, how was he as a layman, a hippie with, mustache, and then a monk after?
I think he was a very human person, and what carried him, he had all the frailties of a human being, both as a monk and as a lay person. But his kindness and his commitment to the Dharma and to being of service sort of outweighed all the personality type issues that came up. Everyone just loved being around him. And so I don't know that there's a big change. Just because you change your clothes, there's a big change maybe over many years of practice. And that certainly was apparent in him. And his commitment to the quantum school and the quantum school style teaching, and to Zen Master Sung San as his teacher, was the most complete commitment I saw anyone able to make, certainly a much greater commitment than I was able to make. He wanted to follow this teaching, and he believed 100% in it.
Could you say a bit more about that, Mark? Like, how did you, what about his practice or the way that he worked that you saw this 100% commitment that's so rare, or any stories you can share about that?
There are a couple stories I could share. One is when he was a monk, I myself had difficulty in trust, and have always worked with that sort of karma of being able to trust wholeheartedly. And one time I was talking to him, and he was saying, well, Zen Master Sung San said we should do it this way or that way, and in relationship to the building. And I said, why do you always say that? Because we want to do it in a way that's best, of course. But just because Zen Master Sung San has an idea, maybe we have to digest that a little bit together. And he looked at me completely cleared-eyed and wide open. He said, Mark, you don't understand. He's my teacher. And whatever he says, that's my job. And we were on the second floor of the Zen Center in Cambridge. And I said, so if he said, jump out the window, would you do that? And he looked at me with no hesitation whatsoever, and he said, of course. So that style, it's not about me. It's only about follow my teacher. So, and I feel very fortunate to have seen that in him. He, at the same time, had an openness and a love that kind of emanated all the time with different things that he did. But he also carried a great question, and he had a lot of fun. So one time he came from California to Cambridge Zen Center. And he and I, we were very good friends. So we greeted each other and we had a nice chat, and he went up and went to bed, and I went to bed. I get up the next morning at 5 o'clock in the morning to do bows, of course, with everyone. And Su Bong Zen Master doesn't appear. And so I thought, oh, well, he must have been tired. He did different time zones, and of course he's tired. So that evening, also not appear. Next morning, also not appear. Then I'm thinking, oh, the head Dharma teacher isn't going to want to talk to him about coming to practice. So my job is abbot. So I need to say, what's going on? Is there something we can do, or something that would be appropriate that we're missing out on? And so maybe the third or fourth day, I went up and knocked on his door. He says, hello. I said, hi, how are you doing? And, oh, great. Good to see you. And I said, Su Bong Zen Master, and before I could even get it out, he said to me, Mark, you know what? I've been doing an experiment. I said, an experiment? He says, yeah, an experiment. It's been very helpful for me. And I said, what's your experiment? He says, my experiment is not go to practice. And I burst out laughing, and he started laughing. And I said, so when is this experiment going to end? And he said, you know something? It just ended. And the next 2 weeks at practice, every morning, every evening, every morning, every evening. And it hit me that he was very curious about what it means to be a human being, about how we make these habits that are so emphatic, and how he was willing to sort of look at that and see what that was all about. And I've never had anybody come to me and so with such a light heart say, yeah, I haven't been coming to practice. I've been doing an experiment. Most everyone else has a very good story about I'm sick, I'm too tired, I worked late, but not him. Just I'm doing an experiment. Now finished. Wonderful. So yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like he radiated joy as well from your stories.
Both my children were born at the Zen Center. And Amanda, who's now 39 years old and loved him dearly. And Jessica is now 34 years old. And I called up Amanda this evening before I was going to get together with you because Su Bong was living at the Zen Center, and he was at practice, but we didn't see him for, must have been almost a week. And I didn't know what was going on with him. And then all of a sudden he called me up. He said, Mark, I've been working really hard on a gift for your daughters. And I said, really? You didn't have to do that. And he said, no. He said, I'm going to bring it over now. And he came over and he gave my oldest daughter, who was into dolls and things like that, a handmade toy bureau that he had built himself. It was maybe a foot high or a foot and a half high, and all the little drawers worked on it. And he gave her that. And my other daughter, she loved these stuffed monkeys. And he had made a bed for the monkeys to sleep in next to her. And both of them have never forgotten that. You know, there are lots of things they've forgotten about the Zen Center, but they both remember, you know, sort of this, and he would just come into our space and sit down and play with them for an hour and a half. And it would be no hindrance. You know, there would be not, oh, I have to go work, I have to do this, I have to, it was always, I'm here with you, you know. And so they adored that about him. As a matter of fact, my oldest daughter, what was the word she used? She said to me, his kindness. He was the kindest person she ever met. And she doesn't know anything about practicing so much. I mean, she knows about practicing now, but at 5 or 6 years old, let's see, she was more like 8, but at 8 years old, she didn't practice. She could just feel him with this quality. He had a Dharma quality that was quite nice.